70 years ago today, on May 25th, 1955, a quiet Kansas town changed forever. Udall, Kansas was home to just over 500 people, a town full of life, laughter, and community. But on that fateful spring night, an unspeakable force of nature descended without warning and nearly wiped Udall off the map. At 10:35 p.m., an F5 tornado tore through the heart of Udall. In mere minutes, it claimed 80 lives and injured over 270 others. Nearly every single building was leveled. Udall was shattered. There was no siren, no television alert, no warning at all. This tornado was not only just destructive, it was unforgiving. It holds the record as the deadliest tornado in Kansas history. But within the wreckage, there were survivors, and their stories echo through the decades. It was like a monster roaring through the night. We didn't have time to think. 1 minute, we were sitting at the table. The next, the house was gone. My father shielded me with his body. He saved me. I remember waking up in a field, bruised and bloodied, and calling for my mother. I could barely recognize the town. It looked like the end of the world. I remember silence, right after the roar. The kind of silence where you don't even hear the birds. Just nothing. What happened after the devastation is what defines Udall, not the destruction. People from nearby came to help the small town. What really inspires me about the recovery story of Udall is how the mayor, Earl Rowe, was bound and determined to rebuild Udall and come back stronger. With the wonderful spirit of the Udall folks, with the overwhelming cooperation and aid being offered, Udall can and will be rebuilt. If it wasn't for the mayor of Udall at the time, vowing to rebuild, Udall may still not be a town. Here's a very heartwarming story of how the mayor rebuilt Udall. Following the tornado, other survivors came and said, "Toots," that was the mayor's nickname, "what are we going to do?" Toots told them that this was his home and he was going to rebuild. They told him that if he was staying, they would too. Toots had been on the city council for 6 years before the tornado, but had just been elected mayor only 1 month before. The night of the tornado, he helped dig out bodies with a flashlight since there wasn't any electricity. The next day, he began the work of rebuilding Udall. It was said that Mayor Rowe at 36 is the driving force behind the resurrection movement. On the night of May 26, 1955, 3 men stood alone in the rubble of what had been a town, stood wrapped in the silence of death after a heartbreaking night and a day of rescuing the injured, of digging out the dead, of surviving the tragic destruction brought by a tornado at 10:29 the night before. When asked if he wanted to rebuild, the mayor said, "Yes, I want to rebuild." The civil defense authorities shook their heads doubtfully, but there are no people. There can be no town if there are no people. Give us churches, schools, and public utilities, said Earl Rowe, and the people will come back. Toots never did give up hope that Udall would rebuild. In every newspaper article that I've read about the tornado, and newspapers around the world carried the story on their front pages, Toots was always the first to say that a new Udall would rise from the splinters of the old. It was reported that despite the terror and resilient confusion, lack of sleep, and distress over the loss of a home, city, and neighbors, Rowe still had a vision of a greater Udall today. Wayne Keeley, who was the Udall City Marshal for 9 years and knew Grandpa for 50 years, when asked, how did Toots' job as a mayor help in the rebuilding of Udall? He said, Toots had meetings and he was the instigator of all the appropriating of federal monies. Toots took care of all of it. He did all the paperwork and contacted all of these people to get federal money. Mr. Keeley also made the comment, after this was over with, and the first time I saw Toots, he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to build somewhere else." And he said, "The hell you are. You're going to build right back here." Toots had a lot of paperwork to do in order to get federal aid to Udall. Governor Fred Hall paid a personal visit and presented Earl Rowe with a telegram from President Eisenhower informing him that federal government had appropriated immediately $250,000 for the rebuilding of Udall. Udall was declared a disaster area by President Eisenhower, and funds were made available under U.S. Public Law 875. The federal government's funds were used in helping to rebuild the schools, water system, and the public utilities that insurance money didn't cover. I felt that Toots helped turn the tragedy of the tornado into a triumph for Udall. People said that Toots gave them the courage to come back by being the first to say, "We will rebuild." We might not have a Udall if it wasn't for his courage and determination. There were other brave survivors who returned after losing their homes and members of their families. All these people working together refused to be beaten by this tragedy. They were all stunned and dazed, but they had a great will to return to Udall. For example, there was a hardware store owner who had children killed and was seriously injured himself. And that grocery store owner lost his wife and 2 sons. Both these men returned and reopened their businesses. Toots helped to rebuild a town I'm proud to live in. We now have a population of 891 people. We have a modern town with good schools and churches. At the edges of Udall are signs which read, "America's safest city." At one time, it was believed that all of the people here had a place to go underground in case of another disaster. Many homes were rebuilt with storm shelters. Both schools have shelters, and some of the churches do. We have sirens, which the civil defense blows to warn us of tornadoes. To sum this up, I think the following quote by Toots describes what he was like. He said this at a memorial service 1 year following the tornado. It shows what a special person he was. Udall can show the rest of the world what democracy really means. We here can show what it really means to be an American. Udall is not even a dot on the map of the United States, but we couldn't lose our courage here when we learned that 6,000 to 7,000 miles away from us were praying for us. We are rebuilding on the faith of God and prayers. This is our home. Today, as we mark 70 years since this tornado, we don't just remember the destruction, we honor the resilience. We honor the survivors. We celebrate the spirit of a town that refused to be forgotten. Udall is more than a chapter in meteorological history. It's a symbol of resilience, a reminder of the strength of the human spirit, of how a community, even its darkest hour, can rise again. Let us not forget the 80 souls lost that night. Mothers, fathers, children. Their memories live on in the foundations of this community and in the stories passed down through the generations. And to the survivors, we hear you. We honor your strength. Your voices carry through the years like beacons of hope. Thank you for watching and remembering this story with me. This means a lot to me, actually. I grew up in Udall, Kansas. I graduated from Udall, Kansas. I spent a lot of my life in Udall, and it still holds a very special place in my heart now. I visit there frequently. I see the memorial nearly every time I go there. This story of the deadliest Kansas tornado in history, still to this day, touches me, and it's a big reason of why I'm so interested in weather and storms. It helped spark that. So let us always prepare for storms, but never forget about the power of survival. Thank you so much for watching.